Back in 2005, Suzuki built a monster, the K5 Gixxer 1000. And 20 years later, I finally got one and I have the title to prove it. I mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. This sucker is boosted. It's been 2 weeks and I work at 2 speeds, dead slow, and when I get to it. And so far, all I managed to do was unseize the fuel cap and clean out nearly 2 decades of rust from the fuel tank. Now, all you knuckleheads, listen, and I'm not talking about those Harley-Davidson riders. I'm talking about those guys who park their bikes and forget about them for 20 years. Check the fuel tank once in a while. Fuel evaporates, and when it does, it exposes bare metal to the elements, and it doesn't take too long for rust to form. And for now, this tank is holding up. Although every few days I spin it around just to keep the inner walls coated with WD-40. That being said, this episode is focused on the electrical system and getting clean power to the components it needs to start the bike. The original 20-year-old battery decided long time ago it had enough. And we're all anxious to see this beast roar to life. And I get it, Straight Chad 8059, and I'll get there. But the first step is a full wiring inspection to eliminate any bare or corroded conductors. Next, every grounding point needs to be cleaned and verified for a good contact. A compromised ground or corroded wire doesn't just risk fire. It can fry critical components like the ECU. Now, I'll be honest with you, I know exactly the condition of the battery and what's underneath it. And that's because the second thing I did when I brought the bike home was remove the battery and hoping it didn't leak. And it did. But this is YouTube and perception matters. So we're pulling it again, acting shocked and letting the acid damage surprise us on camera. Oh, wow. Wow. All right, the next step is to pull the entire tail section off to get a closer look. And honestly, I can tell you right now, I'm not gonna like what I'm going to find out. Really? Did you know the Suzuki GSX-R motorcycle line originated with the GSX-R 750 in 1985, and it fundamentally changed the landscape of modern sport biking. While every other manufacturer was trying to get more power out of their engines, Suzuki's GSX-R core philosophy was performance through lightweight, a radical concept at the time, utilizing features like an aluminum frame and the Suzuki Advanced Cooling System, SACS for short, to create a machine significantly lighter than its competitors, truly pioneering the concept of a race bike for the road. I worked on Gixxers hundreds of times. No fault of the bikes, but rather self-inflicting wounds. And this is my first 2005, so I really don't know where all the grounding wires are. I don't know where all the connectors are. And because I'm cheap, I don't want to buy a service manual. Therefore, the best source of information is Suzuki's website. They have detailed diagrams of every part, every connection. And best of all, it's free. And now that the tail section has been removed, I can see one problem after another. This is not an electrical issue, but this shouldn't be moving around like this. And it can't be good for a fuel pump to be this loose. And I'm sure this map sensor shouldn't be dangling here like nuts. This has a mounting bracket, but for some reason it wasn't snapped in place. This is one tight wire, almost guitar string tight. Nope, it's tighter. I have no clue what this is, but I'm sure it needs to be secured. Looks some sort of jumper wire. Electrical tape? Not a good idea. Fuel injector wires should be secured, but not on this bike. You can't hear this rattle over the exhaust sound, and that's a good thing. A wire rubbing on a sharp bracket edge never ends well. A zip tie can cost pennies, a fried ECU can cost thousands, and not to mention a month of downtime. And here we got what looks like mice damage. One bump while riding, and when reliability matters the most, poof, you're stranded. I saved the best for last. This is the throttle cable and it's supposed to be free of any obstruction. This is a fuel line, and I think we can all agree this can't be good. I won't bore you with a clip of me inspecting every single connection, but this is critical. Always unplug and check all your terminals for corrosion. Even small signs of rust can lead to huge headaches down the road. Trust me, I know. Next, I need to address this wire. Nothing too complex. Cut, strip, splice, heat shrink. Done. Moving on to this jumper connector. And if you terminate motorcycle wires like this, stop. The electrical method will fail. You see, over time, the electrical tape glue breaks down, and that exposed wire becomes a short waiting to happen, and especially on a Gixxer. To repair this, we have 4 options: heat shrink end caps, regular or adhesive line tubing, self-fusing silicone tape, and last, not recommended, but better than nothing at all, electrical tape. First, you need to remember, The heat shrink end caps have to be the correct size to seal properly. And while self-fusing tape is durable, it must be stretched tightly to fuse and bond. Because we're working with such a short jumper wire, stretching the tape is going to be impossible. That's why the best and the most correct way remains heat shrink tubing. The only downside is you have to unpin the wire connectors to slide the tubing over the wire to get a durable factory correct seal. Since specific size heat shrink caps can be expensive and aren't always available when you need them, I'm improvising. I'm using electrical tape to create the initial seal and then using heat shrink tubing over the top. The heat shrink provides the structural strength to hold everything together, ensuring the cap lasts long after the tape's adhesive fails. Mental note, this tape is hot, just saying. If you do have the adhesive line heat shrink, you can skip the electrical tape step and just add heat, pinch the ends closed. The glue will hold everything together. But me, I like to do both. I think layering the materials provides a better seal overall. This is the motorcycle ECU. We all know what it is, what it does, and how expensive it is. The rubber band securing it has seen better days. And when I called Suzuki, they wanted $25 for a rubber band. And me being cheap, zip ties are my go-to solution. You see, the ECU is designed to take plenty of shock, but motorcycles generate harsher vibrations than cars. And if the ECU is not firmly secured, those micro impacts can fatigue solder joints inside the ECU and cause failure. This fix is simple, cheap, and effective, and all it takes is 2 small and 1 medium-sized zip tie. The small zip tie loops around the clips on each side of the undertail chassis. The medium zip tie runs between them, pulling tight to hold the ECU firmly against the chassis. The key here is maximum tension. It has to be tight as possible. Loose ties will vibrate and rub against the ECU casing, and over time, that friction can cause damage. Done right, the ECU stays locked down, vibration is minimized, and the casing stays protected. Total cost is 25 to 35 cents, a massive saving compared to the $25 rubber band. And these zip ties will outlast the rubber band. Mechanics use sight, hearing, smell, and touch to diagnose the vehicle's problem. And occasionally, taste. Although I don't understand why somebody want to taste battery acid or 20-year-old racing fuel. For our next step, we'll focus on sight and touch. First, I need to wipe down every connector and wire. Cleaning the area gives me a better visual to see if any connectors have cracks, and wiping the wires allows me to run my fingers along them to feel for any subtle cracks or splits in the insulation. This is textbook wire damage, likely caused by using pliers to try and rip the plug apart, or maybe by the crimping tool itself biting down too hard on the wire. But hey, this is YouTube, and since everybody likes a juicy theory, let's just blame it on the pliers conspiracy. This feels weird. This is not a wire crack. This is straight up plier damage. For some unknown reason, whoever worked on his bike had to use pliers to plug or unplug the connector, and in the process, damage the wire coating over the wire. I could probably leave it alone, but when it comes to stuff like this, I'm anal. So this needs to be repaired. I can't get to the connector through the front. Let's see if I can get at it through the back. The plug is right there, but I have these wires in the way and they seem to be pinched by the steel braided line going to the air pressure regulator for the quick shifter. Easy enough. To remove the pins, I need to use a terminal extractor removal tool. Not hard when you have the right tool. Cut the heat shrink tubing to size, slide it on, and apply heat. Hot. Repeat for the remaining 2 wires. And there you go, fixed wires. I like to keep things neat and clean, so whenever I can, I use heat shrink tubing that matches the wire color. Some people prefer black because the contrast makes the connection more noticeable. And that makes sense. So what do you prefer, the contrast or the clean look? Drop it in the comments, and if you could hit the like, share, and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. And now for the female plug. And this one, I don't know if the camera can see it, but it also has plier marks. Insert tool, apply pressure, pull connector out. That wasn't supposed to happen. So here's the situation. The current tool cannot remove those pins cleanly. And the only proper way to do it without damaging the plug or the wiring is with the proper size tool. I have it on order, but it'll take about 4 days for it to arrive, which means downtime for the camera on this segment. In the next video, I'll have all the correct tools to finish off the electrical checks and repairs. And then we'll have our first big moment. Try to power her up without frying anything. That being said, there's one mystery I'm dying to solve. And that is, what's the mileage on this bike? You see, the original owner can't remember. Is it 5,000 or 50,000? Until then, thanks for watching. And remember, always hug your pets. Unlike your significant other, they don't care if you use all the baking soda to neutralize the vinegar in the fuel tank. Until next time, take care.